sister-in-law in Crystal Springs, Florida, and then they're closing in Geneva. The Geneva house is later this week, and then they'll start moving in. All of their stuff is en route. Yeah, we were cleaning up the old house to get it ready for the walkthrough later that afternoon. At about 3 o'clock, was really nasty storm. A lot of thunder and lightning, and not a lot of rain, and it's just a little bit of like LeSueur baby pea-size hail for maybe a couple of minutes. And I didn't even know it. We had a storm down here. I didn't think there was anything in the forecast about it. We got home late at night, went to bed, and I got up in the morning, went outside to change actually I had to reconnect my antenna cables, and I always did this time of year disconnect my feed lines when they're we're out of the house, just for that reason, for lightning storms. And what the heck happened? There's just leaves down everywhere, the garden's all trashed, and I figured we had a very heavy and windy rain. I thought it was wind and rain, and then I found out from my neighbor, we had hail, and he showed me a video he shot. We had grape-sized hail here, and some people even reported ping-pong ball-sized hail. It was very, very localized, and I think we were right at the epicenter of it, our part of Stonington here, down in the extreme southeast corner of this town, the extreme southeast corner of the state, in a little area called Greenhaven. Unbelievable. And I think my roof is fine. We had all these strange people. I didn't know who they were.
I thought they were. How you doing, brother?
This one guy was like the lawn lawn care guy that takes care of my neighbor's lawn. Hey, were you here for the storm? And he starts a conversation that way. And he was like Texas. They had these roof inspectors. I don't know. They're probably scammers or what. I don't know. But they were like friggin' flies. They swarm into the area, and they must monitor storm conditions throughout the country, and they all head over these places. And I told them, hey, look, my roof is just had it replaced 2 years ago. We have a very, very reputable roofing company. I'll talk to them. Please leave. Stop bothering all of us. Anyhow, they went away. I don't know what'll happen with that. Anyhow, back to you. There, Steve, AJ1G.
Yeah, drag the key a little bit. I know we're coming into the kill box, right? K1GMM. I'm curious. See, I never really, living in this part of the country, or this part of the Northeast, I should say, very rare to get hail, at least in my area. I got a metal roof on the house, so I don't sweat it too much. But the cars I do. The cars like one of the cars we have to leave outside. So I worry about that. So what I do is I actually park it. I don't know if I should do this, but I park it. We got a huge maple tree, so I park it under the maple tree. If I know a bad storm is coming, I'll park it on the maple tree, because the canopy is so huge that if we do get hail, it'll decelerate the hail by the time it gets to the car. I don't know if that will actually work, because I've never seen it actually happen, but I figured, hey, what the heck? Now we get a high enough. I got so many trees here that it's not going to matter, dude. If we get like huge straight line winds, we'll get a tree that'll come down. And there's pretty much no escaping. I'm surrounded by huge trees. Makes me a little nervous, but kind of curious, shingled roof, you get large enough hail, I would imagine it would actually bust the shingles, actually break the shingles, right? I mean, I don't know, because I've never seen it. That's probably what they were looking for, right? The guys that came in. AJ1G, K1GMM. Hey, Davey.
Yeah,
missed you yesterday.
K1GMM, AJ1G. Yeah, I don't understand why these out-of-towners come in. I know, we've got plenty of local roofers. Like I said, mine was just done 2 years ago, and it's probably. I think it's still under warranty, and there's certain warranty on the shingles themselves. They're 25-year shingles. I don't know what it says about hail damage or all, but actually, our local community Facebook page got all lit up with, hey, who are all these guys walking around, and they're really obnoxious and really aggressive and, pushing to get I'm here to inspect your roof, The local guy, our local roofer, actually came on with a posting about it. It says, yeah, we're here. Any concerns, let us know. I figure if the new roof is fine. I imagine really old roofs where the shingles are dry and brittle. Yeah, I can see those going. But I can do my own roof inspection too. I can get up there, I can look, and even if I can, I have to do. Oh yeah, I have to do the gutters. Right? Well, I got to see if a lot of time the wind will just clear the leaves off the gutters. I got gutter guards. They're not the ones you see advertised on TV all the time. I don't understand that whole deal. It's nothing magic about these gutter guards, these leaf filter guards that they keep promoting on TV all the time. Other than they'll put them on so you don't have to do it. But mine are already there. Although some of them are the mesh is kind of messed up, and I'm going to just change it myself. There's nothing magic about that. The hardest thing, of course, is getting up there. I'm really interested to see how all my neighbors with solar panels out. That, to me, would be a much bigger problem, I would think. And I know I'll have to ask my neighbor.
Yeah, hopefully catch up with you in a little while there, Dave.
That would, me, be a big concern. And I wonder what can happen if, the water gets in there. Will those things short out and go on fire? I don't know. Oh, man. Well, yeah, just trying to get caught up with the day here. Yeah, we had a crazy week here with getting my son on the road and all packed up. He did his, rather than hire professional movers, like a lot of people do, they're just getting these pods brought in. He didn't use the more common PODS.
Oh, yeah. I'm in the same room, Dave. Can you believe it?
Which gave him much bigger cubic footage containers for less cost. And naturally, you buy him by, you're paying by the box basically. And so I don't know if there's a weight charge or what, but he bought 2 containers, or he signed up for 2 containers, and he ran out of space. So there was this mad scramble at, prioritize stuff, unpack, repack. He ended up leaving a washer and dryer he hadn't planned to leave because that was going to take up a huge amount of space in one of the containers. And there was just all sorts of stuff to get rid of, bring to the charity stores and things like that. Brings the stuff to the dump, and in my case, his town has really the town Bolton that he was in. They only come around to collect their trash buckets every 2 weeks, I think, and they don't have a dump that's open on a regular basis.
Freaking Glenn! What are you doing up at this hour?
The one down here,
it's like 27 here.
6 or 7 days, and it's very well organized, and a lot of stuff is free. For example, I got rid of mattresses here for free. I was shocked at that, but they apparently have a deal where they get those recycled, so they actually it helps pay for the cost of getting rid of them, and it's like $100 a ton for bulky waste, and you just say it's bulky, and you got to be sure it doesn't have anything hazardous in it. And I think I paid $8 for one truckload, and the next one was free. And a little bit I got left that I ended up hauling down here for them. That should be free as well. I got to get rid of that today. Crazy stuff. All right. On the cars, like I said, the other interesting thing was he's got my son has a 1990 Volvo 740 wagon. He bought it used in 2002. It's got nearly 400,000 miles on it. It's got great condition, except the roof paint the roof and hood paint are all faded on it. But that's parked down here until he's going to have that shipped down, and it's sort of a shipping container. You know, it's going to some odds and ends that are going to go down in it, and anyhow, it's sitting in the driveway until he can get that make that disappear. But anyhow, it was parked right next to our XC60, and not one ding in that steel on the. You know, obviously the sheet metal on cars is just one step above aluminum foil. It seems lately. Yeah, not one ding in the roof of his old
Yeah, right, Glenn.
40. K1GMM, and drag your feet. The other guy should be showing up. AJ1G.
Yeah, where is everybody? Yeah, I guess it's everybody sleeping in. Hey, you mentioned a net before. You said you're going to be. Are you heading up the band? Is that the net that's up on 85? I think, or are you going to 40? I was listening on a net yesterday, and I listened in here for a little bit, but I didn't key up. And I don't, unless I've got something to contribute, I usually won't jump in. Like I said, I don't like being a QSO hijacker. So, yeah, which net did you read? I know this is going a little ways back. It's the way my mind works, Chris. I apologize. Net on this band, when does that start? At 7? Go ahead.
No, it's the AM carrier net, which traditionally starts at 8 o'clock, and the pre-net usually starts usually around 7. There's also a sideband net, the 3838 Breakfast Club, which
Hey, John, how's it going?
We always wait for them to wrap up because obviously they're in our pass band and we're in their pass band. So for years now, we've been at least a couple of years we've been making sure they're all done, and it's on 3835, and the pre-net starts around 7. That's the AM carrier net, all AM. It's a good little net.
Yeah, gotcha. Have you ever tried? I've done it a couple times. One was on 10 meters. The other was on 15 meters is a good band for AM. You ever jumped on AM, worked the guys across the pond or kind of around the country on 15 on AM? It's surprising, man. You get in there and start calling. More often than not, people will come back to you on AM. A band, propagation, cooperating, of course, right? But that's a lot of fun too. Go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't really done 15. I should try it. But I've been noticing, and I was, everyone's, going into the peak zones. 10-meter AM is going to be great. And it is great if people go up there, but there's never anybody up there. I've had some pretty good, including I was Mobile, I believe, to an English station earlier this year or late last year. But, it seems like you can have too much of a good thing right now with the sunspot. So the solar flux so high, 10 meters is like, darn it, it's just not there. It's not been very good. And apparently there's some seasonal thing where, it should get better. I mean, earlier in the year, 10 was great. I did have a number of AM QSOs there. Really haven't tried much 15. What's the frequency? It's like 430 or something like that. It's right below the top of the band.
Yeah, it's drop it in case somebody came in. It's right. Yeah, it's up towards the top. I think it was like you got it, like 420 to 440 up in 45. It's up in the top section. I don't think people really. It's never that busy up there that I see. So I think even if there was one or two in there, I think you could slide in, maybe reel it in 8K wide or something like that, and go in there and just take up another slot there. But yeah, I know 10 meters. I was kind of anticipating 10 meters to be gangbusters, and I don't know if it is late at night, but it's pretty cack. At least I don't see anybody on there. When was it? Last evening, I was kind of cruising around, doing some North American QSO party stuff, and check 15, and the band was a pancake, and it was good. 15 was good yesterday. It was actually what I consider open. Signals weren't 20 over, but they were easily workable with no power. Worked some guys there, worked some of the NAQP on 15. And, it went flat. Well, I thought it went flat. So it's literally a pancake. All I saw was a little zombie FT8 going. Right? So I'm sitting there, I'm just about ready to change bands, and all of a sudden, boom, this big signal from Florida pops up. So it was still open, but nobody was on there. Everybody was probably sitting there listening. The guy started calling CQ, and he was, an S9, solid S9 in the clear. So I have a feeling that it's open, but it's the age-old adage, right? You're not going to know unless you call. Everybody's sitting there doing the same thing. Saw it last night. Go ahead.
Okay, well, what I do to see if the band is really has propagation is I'll go up. I usually just go on to the reverse beacon network and remove all the filters and see if there's any propagation going on, any activity anywhere. It's going to show up there on is anyone doing CW at least.
Weeding. You come over and weed my flower beds.
And then I'll get on
garden.
And I'll just I'll basically band sound, so to speak. I'll put out a CQ and see what reverse beacon network nodes I light up. But it looks like, on 10, a lot of times during the day, well, it seems like there's not in daylight, I guess some of the nodes track, where there is going to be propagation, where there isn't. They're not actually listening on every band all the time. But 10 meters, I can consistently light up TI7W down in Costa Rica and KP3CW and a few of those. Those are fairly consistent, but other than that, it's been very, very spotty during the daytime up on 10. 15, though, has been very good. Daytime and of course into the night, and 20 has been very good at night and during the day, but I wasn't expecting I was expecting 10 to be a lot better. Hey, I'm going to shift the microphones here. This is my I call it my cheap Chinese condenser mic. I'm going to shift over to my normal cardioid dynamic because I think that modulates a lot better, has a better sound to it. Hang on a second, I got to find it. There it is. All right.
And K2XAM.
I'm going to shift over to my Audio Technica here. All right, it's about the same. I don't know. Maybe about the same here on the O-scope on the modulation waveform. Seems like this one's picking up a little more high frequency. That's at least what the tracers show. Might be hearing a fan I got in the background. Oh man! So I use band sounding with the.
I got you, Kevin. By the way,
they're going. That's a very, very useful tool. And when you get adept at that, applying filters so you can identify where you want to. Filter out spotters from everything but Europe or everything but the United States, or look at the spotters to see what they're spotting from North America. Really, really handy way to, and also to see how your signal's stacking up against everybody else. If a band is open, you call CQ. You can see the SNR you're getting on a given node over in Europe relative to everybody else. It's even if you don't work anybody, you can tell how things are going. K1GMM, AJ1G.
K2XAM, and I heard Gordon, I think, too.
Okay. Hey, good morning, Kevin, Steve, K1GMM, and Gordon, if you're in there. Quick comment. Audio stronger, Chris, on that microphone you put in, but it doesn't sound like it's quite as clear. It's definitely ballsier, and it's stronger, no question. Go ahead there, Kevin, and good morning. How's it going? K1GMM.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Chris. And I'm looking through my notes here. I think you're Steve, right? Yeah, there it is. I have no memory. Good morning. Kind of gloomy here in Syracuse. Not sure what the temperature is yet. I had looked it up, but just don't remember. Waiting for some green tea here. And not sure what else is going on. I thought maybe I heard Gordon, but maybe it was you, Steve, making a comment. Let's see if anybody else is in here. Gordon, were you in here, or was that you I heard, or am I imagining things? I could be daydreaming. Let's see. I'm K2XAM. Evidently, I'm imagining things. Anyway, Steve, I guess it's your turn. Go for it.
No, yeah, it's the same here, Kevin. Raining. I went out, kicked the garage doors open at about 5 this morning, and it was raining pretty good and foggy, very foggy, and I'm froggy. Still waking up, so I guess I'll put it back to Chris there. I pick it up with you. No more comments regarding the microphones. Good signals this morning, by the way. That's why I was kind of glad you guys picked me up in the group, because this is. Hopefully, I'm strong enough you can hear me. Okay, not pushing much. Maybe 100, 125 watt. Carrier. So, but you guys just steam in here, just loud. So when Chris came in earlier, Chris, I was going to mention this. When you came in earlier, I was sitting here and I was just running through some things, and I had the headphones on. I actually almost jumped out of the chair. And that's how loud you guys are in here. It's ridiculous. Go ahead, K1GMM. Eggs and bacon.
Right, I thought you were throwing that back to Chris, but maybe not. I know somebody just keyed up on 3700. All right, not much going on. I'm still trying to get my bearings here. Let's see, I think the Red Sox won last night. I was looking that up. Yeah, the Red Sox beat the Orioles 5-1. And I think the Yankees ended up losing, if I remember. Yeah, the Tigers beat the Yankees 4-0.
He probably.
And,
I think that's Jamie.
Listen
but I'm
to
not
part
sure.
of the Red Sox game.
The pen
listen
clicker,
to part
right?
Of the Yankees game
freaking
too.
Funny.
When it first came on, first inning or two, I was getting involved with getting some items put on eBay, and my computer is so slow I can't stream at the same time I'm trying to put pictures on eBay. The computer freezes up and so forth. It's a computer at work. It's a Windows 7. So
wondering, John, is there a lot of AM activity over there?
Kind of one thing curious. At a time. And so I opted for trying to get
not really a lot
put
here
on eBay. So I just ended up going and listening to this music that was already in the iPod at the same time for entertainment. So I didn't catch the entire game.
It's like that
everywhere.
A
couple programs to watch on TV.
Like
also, I got on my 160 group. We get on about maybe 10 after 7, quarter after 7. All right, it's raining, so there, the reflected power's up. See if I can turn the crank in the right direction. There we go. Keep from tripping off here. So, Steve, I'm only running a couple hundred watts here. This is the DIY rig, but I do have a 160 meter somewhat inverted V antenna here. And Tim had mentioned to me a long time ago, well, if you're on 80 meters and you're, using a 160 meter antenna, it gives you a little bit of gain. If you're on 40 meters and using the 160 antenna, you get even more gain and so forth. So I think that's mostly where, where I end up having a pretty good signal, at least throughout the Northeast. And nothing special going on here. If you saw how this whole thing was set up, it's not very pretty. I know people post pictures on QRZ. I have no pictures because it ain't very pretty. It's just all set up in the living room, and there's one rack that's got audio processing in it. The DIY rig is sitting on top of a Viking 2, which is on the floor, right in front of me, in front of the couch. And then the antenna tuner is at the other end of the couch, and there's just cables all strewn all over the place, and it's not very pretty. But it ends up working, so I can't worry about a whole lot. All right, I'll see if Chris is back in here. I don't know if maybe he was in the middle of swapping out microphones or something when I thought you had turned it over to him. Chris, you still in here with us? AJ1G, K2XAM in the group.
Yeah, good morning, Kevin. K2XAM and K1GMM and possibly W2 good old radio, AJ1G. Yeah, I'm here. Let me check my my grid drive way down. I'll be a little better on the power here. How's the antenna doing? Yeah, everything seems to be in order here. It's raining here. I just brought up National Weather Service New England regional radar, and there's a big gob of rain up in between Worcester and Boston, and we're on the fringes of it. But yeah, it's kind of screwing up my my post hailstorm recovery here. I got the whole backyard. I had a rake, it was like one of the rakings at the beginning of spring, where you got a whole winter's worth of crap to get up. A lot of branches, mainly out of the oak tree, and then lots and lots of green leaves, and then a case of the oak tree, clusters of leaves on little branchlets that got ripped out, and it must be all due to the hail, because under our birch trees, which shed branches in the wind, there was a lot of leaves down, but no branches. So this was all hail damage. And
hey, John, I don't know if you heard me before. Okay. You just answered the question. I was going to repeat the question. Thanks.
Deck, which looks like it's got
you Germans, 40 busy.
With about 2 inches of frozen precipitation.
Really?
Which I guess it kind of glommed into a big.
Oh, I'm going to have to check that out.
Because of the air temperature.
Yeah, I like the lighthouse on the air.
Yeah, we had the radar plot that someone put up posted on our local Facebook page. I never saw such an intense, spot beam, so to speak, of intensity, and it was right on our property, right on our part of town. I think it got totally missed by the local media. This was such a bad hailstorm, but it was so localized, and we're kind of on the fringes of the TV coverage market, down here in southeastern Connecticut relative to Hartford. It never got, no one really picked up on it. But, I got some, they're not, you have to really look to see them, and I'm debating whether I'm going to do anything about them. I got a few dimples on the hood of the Volvo. Yeah, I'm not going to stick too long here, because I'm sure Joe will be firing up fairly soon and a couple hundred yards away. And we tend to blank each other's receivers apart. In fact, I can turn up the gain on my little signal sniffing O-scope modulation monitor, and I can look at his modulation waveform. And that's one of the ways I'll tell if he's on if I don't hear him. Anyhow, back up to you, Stephen. Hey, nice having you in here. Yeah, I heard you in here with Tim. You got sucked into an antenna A, antenna B dissertation there a couple of days ago. But good to have you in here. And yeah, we can talk about a lot of things. You do a lot of stuff I'm interested in radio-wise, looking at your QRZ page. K1GMM, K2XAM, AJ1G on the, and this, Kevin, you were too little to remember, so I know you didn't go, the 55th anniversary of Woodstock. This is the 5th Woodstock weekend. In fact, the dates and the numbers of the dates and the days line up exactly. The same days, same dates. K1GMM, AJ1G.
KD2FO.
Okay, we got KD2FO. Good morning. This is Steve up here in Vermont. Kilo 1 Golf Mike. KD2FO. I got my little cheat sheet here, so I'll get your name when you're. I'll send it right over to you. Oh, and now we got Zello lighting up. Hold on, you guys. Get this out of here. What a freaking circus. Anyways, let's see. A couple comments. Well, Kevin, you mentioned QRZ and Chris mentioned QRZ. I went for, months. With nothing. I tore everything down off of QRZ, took everything off there. Wasn't playing much radio. I completely overhauled the shack. It was a nightmare before, just crap sitting everywhere. I can't deal with that. I finally had a meltdown. Now I've got a big, huge, well, it's not huge. It's probably about a 5.5 foot table. And it's like a freaking dance floor, man. The only thing on the table, the only thing that shows that I might be into radio is a giant watt meter, a remote head for the PW1, and a power supply. That's it. The rest of it's a couple monitors, a sound card, and a coffee cup. Of course, a keyboard and mouse. But yeah, the radio sits in the other room. PW1 sounds like an A10 winding up on the tarmac. I can't have that in the same room with me, so I put everything, snake the cables through the wall, and close the door, and it's like sitting in a padded cell. So it's very, very quiet, which is what I like. So everything's very simplified. It's very clean. So I got to start farting around and rebuilding that. I threw some crap up on the QRZ page because I'm one of these guys. I went through a period, not so much anymore, but I really enjoyed when I worked someone to look at their QRZ page and kind of get a rundown as to what's going on, And if there's nothing on there, kind of bums me out, but it does give me something. It gives me a can of worms to open as well. So I know I look at the equipment and all that stuff as a formality. Get it out of the way and then move on to bigger and better things. Nobody really cares what you run. That's what I found. It's like, whatever. It's kind of like a formality. You know what I mean? Whiskey X-ray, Whiskey Charlie. Okay, that's out of the way. Now we can get down and dirty. You nasty boys. Anyways, yeah, that antenna I love antennas, by the way. I'm fascinated by antennas. It's the reason I got in the hobby. So I'm actually on a Delta right now, a multiband 80-meter Delta. Apex down, fed from the bottom apex. Direct with a 4-to-1. Use it primarily 80 meters, 20 meters stateside because I have a 20-meter Moxon pointed at Europe. And that covers, let's say, 80, 20, 17, 12, and 10. And I have a 15-meter doublet, which kind of does double duty. It's like a miniature BKW, 39.1 feet on the 450, 11.9 feet per leg. Kind of an interesting antenna, really versatile. Doesn't hear very well, but it's got tremendous teeth. And then I have a 40-meter loop, monoband loop up at about 80, 90 feet, way up there. And that's a crackerjack. let's see, where's it going? KD2FO, K1GMM, and then I think you can put it back to Kevin there. Go ahead. Good morning.
Okay, this is KD2FO. Handle is Don there, Steve. D-O-N. And I'm portable 2 in the Adirondack Mountains. Home QTH, if you look me up on Keywords, that says Somerville, Virginia. S-O-M-E-R. Not like the season of the year. S-O-M-E-R-ville. Virginia.
He sounds
but I'm not
familiar.
there. So that's the story. The guys know the story.
All sounds familiar.
So anyway, very good. Running a Heathkit Apache and I'm receiving you on an SX101A. And my antenna
Jeez, he's
here
20
is one
over.
you've never heard of. And it works. It's interesting. I didn't come up with it. It's done with a computer modeling program from a friend of mine who did it. And didn't do it for me, but way ahead of my ever putting this up. He had an 80-meter loop, which is fine. He likes loops a lot. I don't blame him. I do too.
You're welcome, John.
He had an 80-meter loop. He wanted to run 160. And in computer modeling, he came up with if you have an 80-meter loop and you put a quarter wave 160-meter element on one side of the feed point of the loop with, ladder line, you will be able to load up nicely on 160. So what I'm doing here is obviously not that. I've got a 40-meter loop with ladder line. And I'm running a quarter wave section on 75 or 80-meter quarter wave up to one side of the feed point. And it tunes beautifully with a tuner. Although it doesn't like Johnson Matchbox type tuners for that purpose. It's not those tuners don't
Never
like
heard that
setup.
before. That's interesting.
A more modern one, which I'm running, with a 4-to-1 Balun and the big
His
coil
audio
and
is
the
so
pair of large
messed up.
capacitors.
It's not my system. His audio is totally screwed on
Whatever
this.
that configuration is called.
I don't know what is going on. So pinched. He's only got like 800 hertz to like 2 kilohertz of audio. That's it.
So that's the story. I'm told I need to rework my audio they don't like the quality. I guess I can understand the point from what I know of it. And I'm getting into where I'm
He
going to
knows.
be tearing it down. Still haven't. I did find myself an amplifier yesterday, which I text over to Kevin. That I tore down. It's a small, honest, darn thing. Stereo input out to one monaural speaker. Believe it or not, you go from stereo to monaural. It's got to be old. So you have a pair of amplifiers going into a monaural load, about 6 watts out. That's a low impedance, no transformers, and there's no input.
I hope not.
It's accepting a certain
Yeah, I heard him yesterday. He's got a great carrier. Very strong. I mean, he was peaking 20 over. There's 15 over.
Speed champ off of the Apache or something and put this in between.
But the audio is just, it's so pinched, there's no body to it. So it's
some C's and stuff. It's an RC.
it's common. That's even more pinched than like the 7300. These standard radios like rice burners are not that great on AM, except for the Kenwoods. Kenwoods are.
I don't know whatever comments it's worth, or if I'm going to be able to do anything with that, or just go through some standard mods on the audio. Sorry to hold it so long. Yeah, I heard you talking about the sleet, the hail, the other day there, Chris. And my golly, I haven't had a hailstorm here in a very long time, and also a long time in Virginia. Although I remember a couple in Virginia a lot more recently than when I've been in New York. So I tell you, as long as nothing was really damaged, you said you got a couple of minor dings or dents or something. As long as it's not more than that, I've heard horror horror stories on that one. I hope I never encounter it. And I'm glad you have not at this point, so what can I tell you? Over to you, Kevin. K2XAM, KD2FO.
All right, good morning, Don. So I want to defer to Chris real quick for a couple of reasons. One, I know his time is rather limited in here because he's right up the road from Joe, and they're going to get the net going. And I also had a question for Chris. Chris, if you're still with us, so Don got that amp, and I know you've talked about a transformer to go into the grids of the EL34s or the 1625s. It probably doesn't really matter which tube you ended up using, depending on whether you're working on a DX100 or the Apache. I'm just wondering what the impedances are of the transformer that you're using, the output of the general radio unit. Is 600 ohms. The output of the Don's unit is probably going to be 8 or 16 ohms, I'm guessing. But what transformer were you using? Were you using a 600 ohm to 600 ohm transformer, or a 600 ohm to, let's say, 50K split? What were the impedances you're using? And I'm also wondering if either your vehicles got beat up. I think you've got the Volvo and you've got the Tacoma. And I'm guessing you took your Tacoma up to your son Dave. So did the Volvo end up getting beat up by the hail the other day? So AJ1G, over to you, K2XAM in the group.
Yeah, okay, I'll answer that question first. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Tacoma was up at David's, and we only got little, like, miniature pea-size hail, no problem there up in Bolton. But down here,
Jeez, Glenn,
the XC60, the one that's actually the one at the top right corner of my QRZ page shows the Mobile opposite Sunrise down at Stonington Point there, my marquee picture, so to speak. Yeah, I got a few little. You really got to look close to see them, but there's a handful of dimples on the hood. I didn't see any on the roof and nothing on the sides. But interestingly enough, I was telling Steve, I've got Dave's old 1997 40 Volvo wagon down here. He's going to eventually ship that down to Florida on a truck. It was parked right next to the XC60, and there's not a single dent in that. I'm sure it's probably got much heavier sheet metal because it's older. That thing is a tank, literally. It's interesting. It's actually very low to the ground compared to the XC60, but it's got a gigantic cargo space. In fact, all of those Volvos back in the day were designed so you could load what was called a Euro.
Glenn, that would be like a hot air blow dryer in your face.
Shipping container in it. Apparently, a lot of Volvos in Sweden got.
Yeah, that's a little painful.
Not part of NATO.
Mid to upper 80s, maybe 90. Yeah, I do that. I've ridden in that before. But as long as I can get into the shade. But holy crap, 100 degrees now.
Cargo door. That thing is a great car. It's got nearly 400,000 miles on it. Anyhow, back to the other subject. Yeah, I've done it a couple of ways. When I first put this DX100 on with external audio, with bridged-in audio on the grids of the 1625s, I used my 1940 RCA broadcast line. It was a studio monitor, and it also could be used as a program amplifier.
Oh, yeah.
It has 8 ohm and
you know what you need, Glenn?
Ohm or 600 ohm.
You need a pair of goggles, not just glasses.
Of course, the output of that
goggles
to lift the ground on the.
I don't know if you wear those.
The output transformer to
but
make it
you're inhaling that crap too,
and,
so that makes a mess.
I did put a ballast resistor across it.
I wore like an open face, like one of the motocross helmets with the visors, and with a sealed pair of goggles. Because of the freaking dust and stuff. It's brutal. Keep that crusted. Just trash my eyes,
Audio amplifier, direct coupled audio amp with an unbalanced 600 ohm output. It's a 1-to-1 600 ohm lab grade isolation transformer. And the other thing I've done is, and this is a generic thing, any sort of high quality audio amplifier, like hi-fi amp or anything like that with an 8 ohm output, just run a good quality. I have a Radio Shack line.
Exactly.
8 ohm to,
Exactly. I still have that helmet. I'm not getting rid of it. All the other helmets are gone because I sold the Spider.
I just ran that
But and the snowmobile, I don't snowmobile anymore. Plus, the helmets are old, and you really shouldn't. You should throw them away and get new ones.
Secondary or floating, so you
but
the grids. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, exactly. Those are great helmets.
So the transformer you're using,
especially if you're riding with like motorcycles and stuff, they'll throw freaking rocks up, man. You get hit right in the freaking face with a rock if you're riding like a sport quad or a regular quad with no windshield or anything. I always protected myself. Freaking rocks hurt, man. They'll take you right off the machine.
And the transformer you're talking about, 8 ohms to high impedance, is probably a 70 volt line transformer. You're just using.
Oh my gosh, the band just took a dump.
Right to guess that?
20 dB.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think I've been running it either at the 500 or the 1,000 ohm.
Shifting around.
Your main thing is you need to get at least in the 1625s. You need about 43 volts peak to peak, and I got way. That's more than enough audio coming out of this Genrad 1206 to fully drive the grids on.
Yeah, it's got a visor on it too, Glenn.
And I've done it on both.
Which does help because it.
Apache and the.
The visor, because if you didn't have like a canopy over the top of you or anything to shade your eyes, I found that really nice. It's got the visor which is riveted to the top of the helmet and it sticks out, so it keeps the glare from the sun out of the goggles and stuff. It's really handy. They're not even I didn't pay much for that at all. It was under $100, I think.
And insert it into the tube socket for the grid connection of each tube. I got a pair of these little pigtails, and and you take the tube out of the socket. You put that little jumper in, and you reinsert the tube. You got to use really small diameter wire. But it's almost near impossible to get anything in the audio stage of the modulator, the DX or the Apache from underneath. So that was a quick and dirty way to make it work.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe some like ribbon cables diameter wire, which I can't remember the gauge of, but it's pretty thin. All right, fine. I don't want to hold it, but I was trying to maybe help Don out here with some information. So there you go, Don. So you got your homework now. You got to find a transformer to go along with that amp and so forth. Anyways, Chris, do you want to make any further comments, or are you going to hang in here for one more?
I'll just wrap this discussion up. And yeah, you do leave the original driver transformer for the modulator tubes in place, because that's how the grid bias for the modulator tubes comes in, and then of course the center tap of that driver transformer.
Yeah, get them up there, Glenn. I'll watch them.
Provides the low impedance point for phase shifting the bridge and audio, so you get appropriate push.
You should be. You get these cheap little. I don't buy GoPros. They're way overpriced. I got these cheap little GoPro knockoffs. Grab a couple of them, mount one on the machine. Put one. They make clips to put them on a hat. The freaking stuff, dude. I'm telling you, the stuff you'll capture with those guys. I bet you get some great stuff. Freaking total crack up.
That other transformer there.
Gotta get that on YouTube. I love that stuff, man. It's hilarious.
I was thinking of going into the modulator stage of the DX100. I saw how it was designed to be built, but once it's built, it's impossible. It's impossible to get at what you got to get at, or it is possible, but way too much work. And this is a much more elegant way of doing it. That's my consider. It's an engineeringly elegant way to do it, rather than just plugging through that process, and that way you have a lot of flexibility on what sort of audio you bring in. The other thing you want to do, I don't think the Apache. I don't know if it has like like a splatter filter cap across the secondary of the mod transformer, but I unhooked that on the DX100 because that does limit your high-end response to some extent. And I'm going to sign out, but I'll catch everyone in the morning. Yeah, the Red Sox won, beating Baltimore, which helped the Yankees, who lost to the White Sox. And I think the Mets won as well. But the Red Sox are still like 2 games out of the number 3 hole of the. But they won the series with 2-1 against the Orioles, so that's pretty good. It says a lot. Hopefully they can keep up the momentum here now. I guess it goes. I'll turn it back to you, Kevin, to tie the ribbons on it with Don on getting him to put in get some decent audio. And I remember back in the day when I was in high school. I use a little Heathkit A7 Williamson amp as a driver for a pair of 1625s for an outboard modulator I built for the Apache I had then. And so I'm essentially running the same audio chain now as I did 55 years ago. And that was, here it is. It's Woodstock, 55th anniversary of Woodstock weekend. Oh, my God. Can't believe it. AJ1G, back to you, Kevin.
Yeah, okay, Chris. Well, I'm not going to hold it right now either. I'll send it back around. So Don's got some ideas on what he needs to look for at the Hamfest and so forth, and I'll send it back up to Steve. Let's see, K1GMM, K2XAM in the group.
Okay, drop it quick. All right. K1GMM. Yeah, very good. Chris, good to hear you this morning. We'll catch up with you later. And have a great day and enjoy the net. Don, I had a quick question for you. You mentioned putting a quarter wave element on an 80 meter. Was it an 80 meter loop or something like that? I'm a little confused how you would do that, what that element actually is. I don't know if I could do that with what I have here. Now this loop is hanging in the vertical plane. It's not a horizontal loop. In other words, parallel to ground. So it's hanging in the vertical plane. It's in a delta configuration. I really don't want to move it because I use it on other bands. I don't want to move it to a horizontal plane. I don't know if there's a way to do that, how that would look on this loop. On, let's say, a delta, it's an inverted triangle, so it's apex down, feed points at the bottom apex. So I don't know if that's possible. I was going to have you elaborate a little bit if you care to. KD2FO, K1GMM.
Yeah, K1 GMM. This is KD2FO. It just occurred to me that rig was cold when I first started transmitting. I'm going to recheck my frequency. I don't think we drift too badly, though. Okay.
What's up, Andy?
Here's the deal. Right now, just to tell you what I'm doing right now, I'm running a 40-meter loop. Right now, this minute, 40-meter loop with a 75-meter quarter wave section attached to one of the feed lines at the 40-meter loop feed point. And it's ladder line, of course, 450 ohm line, in other words. Okay, window line, whatever. Maybe more appropriate to say window line. And I'm going through an older MFJ Versatuner 3KW version. I've got a big Dentron that I also use identical electrical configuration in the Dentron. It's just that I came upon the MFJ as a cheap second-hand thing that works good, believe it or not, regardless of the lesser brand name. Hi. So anyway, long story short, there's something funny I think going on with I want to watch Diviz were for just a minute here. So anyway, my buddy, and it doesn't matter whether you got a vertical loop or a horizontal. Who cares? That's not that's not what's getting you on the 75 meter band. If you got a 40-meter loop just for kicks. I know you're running an 80-meter three-sided loop right now, 80-meter vertical delta loop. That's fantastic. Nice, by the way. Very enviable to be able to do that, which I've never been able at the height and the configurations to do it nicely. Anyhow, long story short, my buddy was running an 80-meter loop, and he wanted to get on 160. He started fooling around with his antenna computer program and came up with, okay, I got my 80-meter loop. Now, this is my buddy, not me. My buddy. 80-meter loop. Okay, how do I get on 160? And he started fooling around. He came up with one side of that delta loop feed point. So we don't care if it's horizontal, vertical, or sideways. You take and add a quarter wave 160-meter section to one side of the feed line only, and you go try to tune it up. My God, it tunes up. K1, just for a break back to you now, K1GMM, KD2FO.
So how do you orient that quarter? Because that's a quarter wave on 160. That's a considerable piece of wire, right? And I take it it's just wire. You could use just wire, correct? Because I know you mentioned the 450. I don't know how. Or are you using 450 connected to one side, pin or shield, whatever, at the feed point? So that's a question. But how would you orient that leg, that quarter wave piece of wire or whatever? You don't just throw it on the ground, do you? Is that an actual radiator, or does it work as a tuning stub type thing? Go ahead.
He calls it a counterpoise, so I don't think I like his terminology. It is the radiator. Right now, I'm radiating with a mere quarter wave and 80 meters. 40-meter loop, 80-meter quarter wave is what I'm using right now. 40-meter loop, 80-meter quarter wave right now. He was using 80-meter loop, 160 quarter wave. 160 quarter wave is the same as a if you 75-meter dipole is a 160-meter quarter wave, but this is not being fed differently. Just envision this. You can write it down quickly on a piece of paper if you got one in front of you. Show a delta loop for whatever band you want, and a 450 ohm balanced feed coming out back to the shack, and just hang a quarter wave. If it's a 40-meter loop. Call it 40-meter loop with parallel feed. Now just take an 80-meter quarter wave and hang it to one side at the feed point up in the air as high as possible. In this case, I'm running it down towards the ground because the only space I've got to the lower end is like 10 feet from the ground. The upper end is 55 feet in the air right now on my 40-meter with quarter wave on 75. So I've got one lambda at 40 meters right now with a quarter lambda at 80 meters right now hung to one side of a 450 ohm parallel up in the air. Over.
Gotcha. I'm wondering if I could bring that quarter wavelength piece of wire. So let's say that's 130 feet, 100 whatever, 136 feet. Bring it to a tree, come up, bring it to a tree, and then let it hang straight down. Bring it to an insulator, and then anchor it. I don't think I've got enough room to pull it straight. From the, no, I know I don't. Because the entire span, I can just barely get an 80-meter dipole in between those two trees out front, which is where the loop is hanging. Now, obviously, the loop is three-sided, and it's actually smaller across the top than an 80-meter dipole. So, wonder if I could do something like that. Come off the feed point, because I can go to the pine tree, go straight up about, that would give me 75 feet probably, and then come straight down and just anchor the end of it, or zigzag it. You know what I mean? I'm thinking about how I would actually do it, Don. That's the last comment or question. Go ahead. K1GMM.
Yeah, zigzag I don't like at all. I know somebody that tried that with a dipole years and years ago. It did not work worth beans. You couldn't, honest to God, even though it's resonant length, it's not a resonant length between the insulators, and believe it or not, that was making a difference to the bad side. However, I right now would like to try to do something on 160. I've been thinking about going as far as I can go up in the trees and then hanging straight down. And I haven't done it. But I'm guessing it might not be as good as if you had the whole thing up in the air, but I'll bet you'll get some results that are a lot better than nothing. I mean, like, maybe I'm only guessing that it would be decent results. I have not tried it over.
Yeah, that's interesting because I don't want to leave Kevin out because Kevin's probably got some comments too on this. This was, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago now. I was on 160, and just for figgles, I can't believe I didn't burn anything up, but I just loaded up the 80-meter Delta. Now, at that time, it was a monobander, so it was matched with a quarter wave times VF of 75 ohm. And I loaded it up on 160, so I'm sitting there. I wasn't very strong. It's pretty piss poor signal, right? Which makes sense. So one of the guys was doing that exact thing. I don't know who it was. It was a dipole, and he had it running all over the place. Started at like 6 feet, went up into a tree to an insulator, and then went across and had a support rope there at like, I don't know, the feed point or something. And then it went back across again. Everything was suspended off the ground, but it was all discombobulated, man. And the ends were hanging down literally 6 feet off the ground. That freaking guy was the loudest out of anybody, even over the loops. Now, that was probably because I chalked it up to just the way the band was and his location. But I don't know. He swore it. He says, you don't need to. He told me, he says, you don't need to run a straight dipole. He says, and then that's when he told me what he was running. I was like, holy crap. I mean, he was blowing my doors in. Strongest, and these guys were on like full wave loops and stuff, and this guy was eating them for lunch. So I don't know if he just got lucky or what was going on there. Don, go ahead.
Yeah, Roger, I think he got lucky, and I also don't know the exact configuration. I do know the only experience I had, thank God I didn't do it. I knew I wasn't a fan. But the standard, what we were calling zigzag, it wasn't doing the job for the person that I knew. The XYL ham that used to love CW that I used to know, and she needed a big dipole, and we finally got her up one of those. Kevin, I apologize with all my heart. It's been quite a while here to make you just listen. How about getting it back over to you there and see what's going on? K2XAM, KD2FO.
No problem. I'm somewhat getting a little bit of an education. I don't know a whole lot about antennas. The extent of my knowledge with antennas is pretty much from the broadcast industry, and of course, we use a vertical radiator 200 to 300 feet tall, and so forth. And I'm already breaking all of the rules that end up kind of going with that. And I'll say this about that. I mean, one thing that I learned and realized very early on was at an AM transmitter site, if you have any trees growing up, high grass, brush, junk growing up, that does attenuate your, an AM broadcast signal quite severely.
Andy, I agree.
And it's just, I've gone to different stations.
Telling you, Andy, that guy, I wish I had recorded that QSO because keep in mind, I was on an antenna half the size it should have been, and he was like 40 over. He was just killing these other guys on that antenna.
Up above Albany all the time.
He swore by it. He says, yeah, don't pay any attention to this crap. Oh, no, it's got to go in a straight line. Bull crap. He says, you can run it all over the place.
With a brush hog and cut down all of this crap because it's just killing your AM signal. And I don't know if they ever did or not. Nobody had maintained that site. So I know that vegetation is bad, and I've broken that rule because of where I am. My antenna is strung up in trees, through tree branches, et cetera, and it just is what it is, but it works. And I was amazed of what you can put up and actually have a signal. In my case, the original antenna, which is still up, is only about 15 feet up off the ground, and it's a dipole center-fed 450 ohm ladder line. Used back then, I was using a kilowatt matchbox, and my first contact was Glenn up in Bodenham, and I about fell off the couch here when, because I figured if I talked to somebody in Utica, I was going to be doing a lot with that antenna. It was so low to the ground. So I need a lot of education. Much of my experience with radio and so forth is more on audio processing side of things and transmitters, having just been in the broadcast industry. So Don knows this, so I'll let you know, Steve. I've only been an active ham for about 5 years. I was licensed probably around 2000, but never got on. And then ended up taking my general something like 15 years ago, and tried to get on but failed miserably because I didn't know what I was doing. And then about 5 years ago, just got heavily involved with all of this and have kind of kept going. All right, I'm over my 3-minute limit. So let's see. I think back over to Steve. I got to look up your call letter still. I'm still not awake. K1GMM. I'll wake up probably around 4 o'clock, and then I'll fall asleep and take a nap. K2XAM in the group.
Wow, dude, you take a page out of my playbook. That's what I do. I just start coming to life, and then I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go lay down for a little bit, crash. But wow, that's amazing. And you ended up in AM. How did that happen? So yeah, it'd be interesting to hear. Well, your background. So you obviously. So I put that together. Obviously, your background was in broadcast. So AM's a natural progression, right? That's pretty cool. That's cool. Maybe at some point, you can take some time and I'll interrogate you a little bit more on your background. But 5 years, well, geez, I thought I would never guess that ever, but that's probably your AM broadcast background, working in the industry. Because being around that, you do learn certain things, I'm sure, that translate right into amateur radio, especially AM. So pretty cool. Yeah, I don't really know that much about AM. I enjoy it, and I enjoy learning about it. I don't have any boat anchor stuff here, any old equipment, don't know anything about it. But I'm fascinated by it, So I'm kind of the polar opposite. So I was licensed in 2015 and upgraded to general spring of 2016, extra in 2017. And, but I've always, I was a musician all my life, pretty much, since I was a child. Ran a real hack, nothing like what Gordon's done. I want to just make sure I say that, but a real hack basement studio. Ran a studio here for a long time, commercial studio, 15 years probably, and played out in a lot of groups, worked on a lot of projects, not just here, but Connecticut and here in Vermont. Toured North America with a vocal and orchestra group back in 1983 as a sound technician, and Alaska, all across Canada, stateside here, going down into New Mexico. It was a 3-month tour. That was a lot of fun. And I was young. Geez, I was about 19 at that point. So that's my background. So the audio side of things I've been heavily into, and that's what's kind of been the catalyst, which has gotten me kind of put me where I'm at today. I just enjoy that stuff. I enjoy learning how it translates over the air. It's never over. It's never perfect, and always learning something every day. All right, put it back to Don with a break, and I'm going to step aside for a little bit. I got to run upstairs and take care of business, and come back down if you guys are still here. Cool beans. If not, 7-3, have a great day. KD2FO, K1GMM, coming back in a little bit.
The band died for me. I'm not counting FEF or anything.
Oh, Don said the band died. Go ahead, Kevin. See if you can pick him up and relay. I'm stepping out just for a little bit and wish him 7-3.
Real quick, I don't know if I'll still end up being here either, but Don, go ahead and take it. I can hear you. Hopefully you can hear me. We're not all that far apart, but maybe the band is kaput for the day. Who knows?
Yeah, I've got a bad piece of coax in the shack, and I just realized it. And for the moment, I'm okay. I probably should have been hearing Steve better than I was. So yeah, very good, Steve. I bet you're still in there. Okay, I thought you heard you come back for a second. Let me just how copy over your way there, Steve. KD2FO.
Yeah, he's probably not going to hear me, Kevin, but 7-3, Don, you've got something going on there for sure, and it's not good. Don't blow anything up. It's like one side of the coax is coming unglued. It's intermittent. That's what I'm hearing on this side. So yeah, if you're running an amp or something or power, just a heads up, I'm hearing it on my end. Go ahead, Kevin. Wish him a 7-3, and I'll be back in a bit. And Kevin, if you're gone, have a great day, buddy. We'll catch you later. K1GMM.
So Don, were you able to copy Steve on that one?
Yeah, Roger. It's not the band. It was a piece of coax here in the shack that is still giving me a problem or something. I've been watching the Bizwar here because I was noting something. It's not. I don't know. Doesn't seem to be a problem on transmit, but I got to make a comment to you. Where you go, Kevin? The comments that we got from Chris.
All right, you guys. Hey, Glenn, if you're around, I'll catch you on Zello. You and Dave. I don't know what you guys are doing. Probably on there. Anyways, Andy, we'll catch you later. John, I think that's the only 3 in here. And DTX. John, 2 Johns, right? Which I don't think DTX is in here anymore. He's eating. And Dave. All right, 7-3 guys. I'm pulling the plug.